Hi, my name is Heather Skoglund, and I will be providing a rebuttal to Cassandra's statement that the United States should not be military involved in the Middle East. To start, Cassandra says leaving the Middle East is the safest path for the United States, which is true, but it is definitely not the smartest path. We are working to stop our mistake of leaving countries with no government by working closely with Iraq to set up a working democracy. It has been a long process, and there's still a ways to go there, but Iraq is making great strides in trying to boost their economy and make it a good, functioning democracy. She makes the point of quote, political solutions rather than imperial oppression. Politics don't work unless each government or group involved wants it to work. Every country in the Middle East that wants to work with the U.S. has, or at least has made it known, and are currently our allies. Countries like Turkey, Israel, Morocco, Bahrain, and etc. The U.S. is not using imperial oppression, but as we are already involved in the Middle East and have been for years, military involvement is inevitable and needed. Further, military involvement does not equal imperial oppression or war. The military does numerous things apart from combat, including what they're doing in Iraq right now. Further, the U.S. has adopted a policy of diplomacy, but it is difficult in a region that is so chaotic. As I stated before, one must be open to diplomacy and negotiations from both fronts to be successful. Cassandra says that currently in the Middle East, military intervention is not necessary, but one could argue the exact opposite. In fact, intervention is needed now more than it has been in a long time in order to stop ISIS, which is a huge reason for our involvement. If we pull out of the region, ISIS will have no one stopping them from moving into other countries and taking over. She says that countries such as Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, and Iraq all have armies that could defeat ISIS. I believe this is all speculation on her part. We have not yet seen much intervention from these countries, and any intervention they have participated in has obviously not worked. I'm not saying that the United States intervention has done a lot. In fact, it really hasn't, as we can see. But leaving the Middle East would create an opening for ISIS to take over, much more of an opening they have now. Also, they wouldn't immediately take over the countries she mentioned. They would start with weaker countries and amass their army until it could stand up to the armies of Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. This was the same strategy the Nazis used during the 1930s that ended up causing World War II. Yes, involvement in the Middle East has created terrorist problems in the United States and its allies, but leaving will not solve that problem. ISIS doesn't hate the U.S. and its allies themselves. They hate what they stand for. They hate the concept of freedom of speech, that everyone is born equal, that everyone has equal rights, etc. Because of this, ISIS won't stop attacking foreign countries. Even countries that aren't involved in the Middle East have been attacked because they are simply democracies. Cassandra says that it simply isn't our problem, and the Middle East should solve their own problems, and it's time we let them. Unfortunately, it is our problem because of our decades of involvement there, and leaving them to their own devices would wreak havoc on the region and would affect the rest of the world, as many countries in the rest of the world have things involved in the Middle East, including the economy. The state of the Middle East is a large and complex problem, and overall, pulling out of the region would spell disaster for everyone involved.